noon Pacific time. All these recordings and slides and exercises are archived in the members area at paulhoyt.com/tribe. And then all of the recordings are going to be available on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/user/Paul Hoyt. The reason I do these office hours presentation is because I know that being a successful business owner can be a great experience, but I also know that it's tough, that you need education, training, tools, and team in order to be successful. And I really want you to get to know me, because when you get to know me, you'll know that I really do care about you, that I want you to succeed in every area of your life, not just your business, but whatever that means to you. I want you to find the greatness, the happiness, the divinity that you have within yourself, and then remember it, embrace it, and live it every day as I try to do. My vision is to help millions of CEOs and entrepreneurs all over the world accelerate their business growth and enjoy greater harmony and balance in their lives. So you can help me in that vision by passing the word along that I do these office hours presentations every Monday, and that they're available on YouTube. Anybody that you know that's in business, I certainly would encourage you to say, hey, have you seen Paul Hoyt's stuff? There's some pretty good stuff out there. And point them out to one or more broadcasts that you found especially significant and important to you in your business, so I can help them in the same way that I'm aspiring to help you. Our agenda for each one of these calls is an in-depth discussion of a business success principle. Then I offer some closing remarks and special offers, an invitation for next week's session. And then we go to open questions and answers and coaching. Questions and answers on the subject of the day, and then just open it up to live coaching for any questions that you have with regards to business, or comments that you have, or anything you want me to share an opinion or help solve a problem, face a challenge, etc. I invite you to join us during these calls at the Brilliant Business Groups in both Facebook and LinkedIn. In Facebook, it's facebook.com/groups/Brilliant Business. And in LinkedIn, we have a bit.ly link, http://bit.ly, that's bit.ly/Brilliant Business Group, because the LinkedIn URL is way too long. I do Energy of the Day and Business Success Principle of the Day postings to both of these groups. And you can also make comments, ask questions of other members of the group, share your insights and your takeaways, not just during these calls, but any time that you want. You'll find members of our community most helpful and most creative when it comes to helping you address the issues and challenges that you have in your business. And if you haven't done so already, I encourage you to like my business page on Facebook. Today's topic is on the vital signs of business. Today's conversation was inspired by last week's group coaching session. One of the folks on the call, Dr. Judy Cook, who is a psychiatrist, asked the question about, how do I tell, which option to select next? How do I tell which of the people I'm talking to really have my best interests at heart? And that is what the subject of today is all about. As usual, I relate the subject matter of the day to one or more of the key performance areas. And this conversation about the vital signs of business is really focused on two areas, on the area of leadership and in the area of financial management. In our agenda today, we're going to talk about taking a trip to the doctor and what it feels like and what type of questions you typically would get asked when you go see a medical doctor. Then we're going to talk about the vital signs questions in business, which I have at 5 different levels: the public questions, the partner questions, the advisor questions, the executive questions, and the coaching and the therapist questions that you have. Then we'll sum it all up with the bottom line, and we'll invite Q&A when we get done with it. First of all, I want you to imagine that you're going to take a trip to the doctor. You can imagine whether you're ill or have a pain or an injury, or whether you're just going for a checkup. When you first go to the doctor, you will find typically a nurse's assistant or a nurse themselves or a physician's assistant asking you some very basic questions and taking your vital signs. They'll take your blood pressure, they'll take your pulse or your heart rate, they'll measure you, weigh you on a scale to find out what your weight is, they'll measure you to see how high you are, how tall you are, they'll ask you questions about your age, and these are considered to be the vital signs. This is what the doctor takes a look at first whenever you go to the doctor. And these are questions that can be asked in a public forum. Oftentimes when I go to the doctor, there's a little hallway there where they put you on a scale and put you and weigh and measure you and ask you these questions, maybe take your blood pressure, although they don't call out your pulse rate and your blood pressure over in the hallway itself. It's still kind of public questions, that these aren't revealing a lot of confidential information about you at all. Then when you get into a examination room, they start asking you a little more intimate questions, questions that you might not be asked normally in public, like, what's the purpose of your visit today? What prescribed medications are you on? Maybe how much do you smoke, or how much do you drink? Starting to ask a little bit more intimate questions and confidential questions about who you are and what your habits are. Asking, do you exercise? Do you do any strength training? Do you do any walking, jogging, running, biking, any aerobic training whatsoever? And then maybe, are you sleeping okay? What's your energy level right now? And continued on at this level, and this is typically a nurse who's going to be asking these questions. They might ask, are you facing any physical challenges? Are you in pain in any ways? Everything seemed to be working. Have you had any major surgeries or recent visits to the hospital that we should know about? And maybe some questions about your family history. And then when you get into the doctor themselves, they might ask even a lot more intimate questions about your physical question. Questions like, what are your worries? What are your anxieties? What would you consider your stress level to be on a scale of 1 to 10? Are you normally anxious up at the 7 or 8 level, or you're normally very calm down at the 2 or 3 level? Are you having any relationship issues or family issues that we should know about? Do you have any addictions? Are you addicted to tobacco or alcohol or any other medications? Or, some people are even addicted to things like food or exercise or other things in their life. Do you have any intimacy issues? And are you on any non-prescribed medications? These are questions that only typically your doctor will ask you, and typically only in confidence. And there's reasons for doing this. One of the reasons to do this is because they want you to be honest with them. Because if you ask these in a public scenario of some kind, you're not going to be honest about what sort of addictions you're on, or non-prescribed medications or alternative therapies that you might be considering. And they really need to know from a best practices point of view, so that they can treat the whole person, so they can really understand what's going on in your life from the tip of your toes to the tip of your nose, so that they can make some good diagnoses of what's up for you, and make some good suggestions or some good prescriptions about what you might do to move forward and to improve your physical condition. Just imagine if you walked into the doctor's office and they immediately started prescribing things without doing any diagnosis. It would be an extremely uncomfortable, very impractical experience for you. And my guess is that your antenna would start to buzz, and you would start to say, man, this is not a person, man or woman, that I want to talk to, because they're not paying any attention to me. They don't care about what's going on with me. They're just trying to prescribe something to me for some reason. One of my favorite sayings that you've heard me say on these office hours presentations before is that prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. And that's very true when it comes to the medical profession. I first heard this from a friend of mine named David Corbin, who worked with Brian Tracy for a long time. Brian Tracy is a famous sales trainer in the 70s and 80s and 90s, and I think early 2000s as well. I'm not sure when he passed away. But David was actually a business partner with Brian Tracy for a while, and so that's why he came up with this and how he came up with it. But I really believe that. It's true not just when it comes to going to the doctor and taking care of your physical health, but I really believe that it's true when you're going to a coach or a business consultant and taking care of your business health as well. In our agenda, we talked about 5 different levels of vital signs questions, and we're going to go through each one of these one at a time and talk about the different levels of questions for your business in the same way that we have levels of questions when we're talking about your physical health. First of all is the public questions. These are ones that you might get asked at any networking function, Chamber of Commerce function, a B&I function, any time where you strike up a conversation with somebody about your business. They might ask you, hey, what business are you in? What products and services do you sell? What industries do you serve? What markets do you serve? And maybe if they're really sophisticated, they might say, who's an ideal client for you? Those are typical questions that you ought to be very comfortable to answer in public, even up, I would say, in the front of a room somewhere. I mean, this is really telling about who you are and what you do. They might ask you a question about how long you've been in business, and they might ask you a question about what sets you apart, what makes you different than all the other people who would say that they do the same thing that you do. These are very public questions that you would expect somebody to ask you if they were really wanting to get to know you a little bit and had any consideration at all about what business that you were in. The next level up are questions that typically your partners, your major suppliers, and maybe your large customers will ask you. Not everybody's going to ask you these questions. What's the size of your company? And by the way, not everybody is comfortable saying what the size of their company is. I remember vividly when I first started working as a business consultant, asking somebody a question, what were your revenues last year? I learned real quickly that that was not a comfortable question to ask somebody until you got to know them for a while, until you developed a little bit of a relationship. They were very uncomfortable with saying that. I didn't really realize it at the time why they were, but I quickly learned that that's a question that not everybody is comfortable asking. Well, by the way, and one of the ways of asking that is, would you say your revenues are in between $250,000 and $500,000 or less than that over the last few years? People who can answer questions about the range of a range question much easier than they can a very specific direct question like, what were your revenues last year? Your partners, your major suppliers, and your large customers may also ask you, are you growing? What's your planned size in the next 12 months or 36 months? Do you anticipate growing, or are you planning on staying the same size for a while? How many employees do you have? What's the size of the team that you have? How many customers do you have right now? How many customers have you had? What stage of growth are you in? Would you consider yourself to be in a startup stage, moderately expanding, rapidly expanding, turnaround of some way, or are you preparing for exit? And can you supply any references for us today? And do you have any future product and service plans that you'd want to share with us? As you can see by the nature of these questions, these are not typically public questions. You're generally not going to stand up at the front of a networking event, a Chamber of Commerce, and really talk about these questions, because we're starting to jump into that zone that we're asking a little more intimate questions about the business, things that are starting to be a little bit confidential in nature. But there's a couple of other levels, 3 actually, additional levels of questions that are even more private and even more confidential. Your advisors and investors may want to know, what are your current goals and growth initiatives? Very specifically, what do you want to accomplish this year, and what do you want to accomplish in the next 3 or 4 years? What revenue goals do you have? What profit goals do you have, etc.? Who are your major prospects? Any large pending deals that you have on the plate right now? And what major challenges and obstacles have you faced in the last 12 months? What major challenges and obstacles are you facing right now in your business? What's working for you? What's not working for you right now? And could we review your income statement month by month for the last 12 months and a current balance sheet and go over that just to see what your financial health is? And who are your largest customers? And finally, do you have any funding or capitalization strategies? If somebody's looking to be a confidential advisor to you, with you, or an investor in your company, I think you should expect to have questions of this nature, because they really want to know now another level of confidentiality, another level of business intimacy about where you are going with your business, what your current status is, and what's working and what's not, and all these kinds of questions that get them a more in-depth and more confidential knowledge of your business. The next level up is questions that typically a senior executive is only going to ask. And these are even more confidential than you might even need to disclose to potential investors? How much cash do you have in the bank right now? What's your accounts receivable balance, and how much of that accounts receivable balance can you honestly expect to collect in the next 30 to 60 days? What's your accounts payable balance? How much do you owe other people? What other debt do you have other than immediate accounts payable? Do you have any notes payable debt or long-term debt, promissory notes, anything like that that we should know about when we're judging the health of your business? And have you done any cash forecasting? What's your anticipated cash balance 30 days, 60 days, 90 days from now, as you collect your receivables, as you make your payables, and as you take care of your overhead need? And speaking of that, what is the size of your payroll? What is your monthly overhead? And do you have any major financial or legal issues that we should know about when we're planning our business and taking care of the growth of our business? What's the size of your pipeline? What type of customers do you have in your pipeline? What's your probability of closing them? And how big of a deal are you working on? And by the way, let's talk about the top 5 deals that you have in your pipeline right now and see if there's a way that we can't move those deals forward a little bit. And do you have any current problems with employees, contractors, investors, etc., that need to have immediate attention? These are the types of questions that you might not even talk to investors about. Although you have a responsibility with investors to fairly disclose the status of your business, you don't necessarily have to tell them everything that's going on in your business. For example, size of pipeline, major financial. You have to talk about legal issues, especially if you've got any pending litigation. But some of the other questions, you just don't have to come out and talk to them about right off the top of your head. These are questions that your CFO would ask, that your senior level executives ask. And there is one more level, by the way, about very important questions in business, and these are levels I would call the coach and therapist level. What are your biggest fears? What's blocking you right now from achieving the success that you really want to have? Are you just paralyzed in some way for picking up the phone, or from sending out that email, or from releasing that product, or whatever it happens to be? Do you have any health issues, anything that's impacting your performance on the job, that's keeping you from showing up 70 to 80 hours a week and putting forth a fair effort? Do you have any family issues that are also likewise keeping you from putting forth a tremendous effort in your business? Anything that's slowing you down with the kids, or with the parents, or with your significant other, that is in some way impacting your business performance? Are you sleeping well? What's generally your energy level towards the business? How many hours a week are you able to work on this business? And finally, when was the last time you took some time off? When's the last time you really took a vacation? I mean, not just taking off on Saturday or taking off on Sunday or one day over the holidays. When was the last time you took a week or 2 off from your business and really allowed yourself to recharge your batteries? Those are some really intimate questions that only coaches and therapists typically begin to ask you. People who are really interested in your emotional health and your physical health and your spiritual health, because we know how much that can impact your business performance. So those are the vital sign questions. There are public questions, partner questions, advisor questions, executive questions, and coaching and therapy questions. And here's the reason why it's important for you to understand who asks these questions and at what level these questions are being asked. And that's because you come into conversations with a focused sales professional. A focused sales professional is interested in one thing and one thing only, and that's selling their products and services. So they start out the question about, hey, have you heard about our products and services? Well, if not, let me tell you, because these things are absolutely sensational. You are going to love this product. You are going to love this service that we have. I know it's going to be something that's going to bring a lot of value to us. And by the way, you have to make a decision right now. We've only got a few of these left. We only have a few hours left in our day, only a few coaching slots left, only a few of these cars, these trucks, these programs left at all. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for you, because the special that we're offering right now today, this 20% discount, this 30% discount, this 50% discount, it's going to go away at the end of the day. All you have to do is just charge it to your credit card. Have any of you been in a conversation like that? Man, I've been in lots of conversations like that, where somebody is just hawking their product or the service with no question at all about whether or not that's appropriate for me and my business. They're just selling their product or service. On the contrary, if you run into some sales professional who is also acting as an advisor, who also cares about you and the fit of their product or service to your particular business situation and your particular problem in business, they might ask you questions like, what stage of business are you in? How long have you been in business? Do you have a budget for our types of products and services? Do you have a coaching budget in mind? Do you have a training budget in mind? Do you have a budget for marketing services? Do you have a budget for social media services? Do you have a budget for branding and strategy services at all? What is it you really want to accomplish? Because I really want to make sure that what we have to offer is just right for you based upon your situation and your goals and your objectives. So, what is it that you want to accomplish? And if it's a major expenditure, they might really come back and say, really, I want you to think this over and I want you to consult your business advisors because I want you to have every bit of confidence that you can have in making this sort of a major decision for yourself. Whenever we talk to potential investors, this is a conversation that we absolutely have to have. One of the things that is absolutely the best practice is to say, take a look at all of the paperwork, about the business, take a look at our offering documents, the business plan, the presentation materials that we've supplied for you. Have your attorney look over all of the legal paperwork, talk it over with your spouse, your significant other if you need to, and anybody else that you need to, because we don't want your check unless you're 100% convinced that this is an investment that you want to make going forward. That's the way that it is supposed to be done whenever you're raising capital for the business, because it is a way of taking care of people and making sure it's a fit. And I think it's the way that business ought to be done in general. In fact, I think that the questions that we ask the last ought to be some of the questions that we ask the first. And here's the completion of the analogy about the vital signs of business. When we go to the doctor, they measure our height. So I might ask you, what are your revenues? How high is your business? How tall is your business when it comes to generating revenues? A doctor might ask you, what's your heart rate? And I would ask you, what's your cash flow? Because cash is the lifeblood of your business. How quickly is it flowing into your business and through your business? What's your weight? In other words, how heavy are you? What is your debt load? What is your overhead? What is your burn rate? How much money are you committing to spending on normal expenses every single month to keep the doors open, to meet your payroll, to meet all of your necessary obligations, and to take care of your debt service? Your doctor might ask you what your blood pressure is, or take your blood pressure on their instrument. I might ask you, what's your stress level? How are you doing in this business on a daily basis? Would you consider yourself to be quite anxious, or would you consider yourself to be very relaxed and joyful and energized in your business? The doctor might ask you what your age is. A competent business consultant advising professional might ask you, how long have you been in business? And what stage of business are you in? Your doctor might ask you, what's your energy level? How much sleep are you getting? When was the last time you took some time off? I might ask, what resources do you have at your disposal? How much additional funding do you have, cash in the bank, etc., that will indicate to me what sort of energy that you have to put into the growth of your business. And last but certainly not least, and certainly not the last of this analogy, your doctor might ask you an intimate question about how are your family relationships, and a competent consultant who really is caring about what your vital signs are, might ask you about your team. Who do you have on your team? How's that working for you? Do you have any dysfunctional team issues, or is everybody in your team performing up to your expectations? So to me, those are the vital signs of business, and typically are around questions that never get asked until you have, a long-standing business relationship with somebody. What are your revenues? What are your profits? How is the cash flow? Are you generating cash, or are you consuming cash every month? What's your debt load? What's your monthly expenditures? What's your stress level? How long have you been in business? What stage of business are you in? What sort of resources do you have at your disposal to grow your business? What is your energy level when it comes to growing your business, and how is that team working out for you? So here's the bottom line. The bottom line is, don't confuse a focused sales professional with a trusted advisor. Somebody who shows up and says, you know, you got to buy my stuff and you got to buy it today, is not acting as a trusted advisor. They're acting as a focused sales professional. And by the way, I think these are needed and they're very much okay. You will want some of them working with you. Please don't take this as a disparagement at all towards any focused sales professional. They've got a job to do, and some of them do it extremely well. But your job as the CEO of your business is to really understand when they really have your best interests at heart and when they are doing their job in encouraging you to purchase their product or service. Those who are really interested in your long-term success are going to ask you questions at all of those levels. They're going to ask you the public questions, the partner questions, the advisor questions, and even the coach, therapist, and executive questions, because they want to make sure that it's a fit. They want to make sure that their product and service is contributing to your overall success and not a part of your failure scenario. So that was our agenda for today. We talked about what it's like to go to a doctor. We talked about the vital sign questions at 5 different levels of intimacy and confidentiality in your business. Summed it all up with the bottom line. Your homework is to make a list of your trusted advisors. And if you don't have a trusted advisor on your team, then I really encourage you to get 1 or 2 people that you can talk about all of the crap that goes on with your business. Will be there to support you, to allow you to vent, to allow you to express frustrations, to allow you to have somebody to deal with the most challenging questions that you have in business that can help you through any sort of a business chaos or a business mess that you find yourself in. And as always, I encourage you to get coaching and support to accelerate your growth and your progress of your business. We're going to open it up to open questions and answers and coaching here in just a minute. If you have a question, you can type it into the chat log of the GoToWebinar session that we are using today, or send it to me in some other way as well. First of all, we're going to have comments and questions on the topic of the day, then any other issues that you want to address, and tell me what your biggest takeaways are, what insights that you may have gained from this presentation. Tell me what you're going to focus on, and I encourage you to, again, post those in the Facebook Brilliant Business Group or the LinkedIn Brilliant Business Group. So not just myself, but other members of our team and other members of our business community can support you and help you out with their ideas and answers to your questions as well. As I say many times, that my distinction is that I focus on the whole person. You know, I want you to be a success in every area of your life, whatever that means to you. I don't want a lot of your money. I want you to spend an appropriate amount of money on education, coaching, training, and consulting. I want you to get the support that you want, that you need, that you can really use, and the support that you can afford in order to move your business forward. If you're not already in the deep end of the swimming pool, I want you to learn to swim before you jump in there, because I think it's a lot safer and a lot more comfortable to do that. And as you know, I don't believe that belief and persistence alone will guarantee your success. They're necessary, but they're not sufficient. You have to have a great business model, and you have to get a lot of support from your team members in order to be successful in business in the short term or the long term. And so we offer a lot of support services in education, training, coaching, and consulting. And new services are our growth management services, which are a do-it-with-you service. So we can teach you how to do things with our education and training programs. We can work with you to make these things happen with our consulting and growth management services. And in some cases, we have a do-it-for-you model where we assume a position on your team and actually take some of the operational responsibilities away from you, and you can delegate that to us. In that sense, it becomes a do-it-for-you model. I would encourage you to sign up for our Business Growth Acceleration Kit at paulhoyt.com/CEO bonus, where you can get a presentation on the 5 choices of winning CEOs, an article on the 10 things you should know about raising capital, some samples of the inspirational works that I produce, and a free business clarity question and some prize bonuses. I think there's a tremendous amount of value in this program, and it's absolutely free. or you can purchase my CEO training program at beyondbusinesssurvival.com. It's what you need to know when you're a CEO. It will help you avoid making mistakes that will cost you $5,000, $10,000 or more, mistakes that will slow you down or shut you down. One of my favorite people who has been on these calls a lot, Nick Catricala, purchased the program and said it was worth 20 times the amount that he paid for it. And that gentleman had been in business for a long, long time. Our next office hours presentation is going to be on January 12th, a week from today. The topic is to be determined. I'm taking a look at a couple of books that I may do a review of so that you can get the salient point and the success principles that are in those books. Or I'd be open to another subject if you had one. And if you do have a topic that you'd like for me to address on future calls, future presentations, you can go to paulsurvey.com and put it there and do your homework. And with that, I want to open it up to questions and answers and public group coaching if you'd like to ask any questions on that. I'm going to invite Stephanie to step into the call and see if we've had any questions typed into the windows during the course of today's call. Stephanie, any questions?
Well, yes, we do. We have a couple.
Okay.
All right. Are there times when you act as a focused sales professional instead of a trusted advisor?
So the answer is yes, absolutely. There are times that I act as a focused sales professional instead of a trusted advisor. When I talk about the value of the products or services that I have, without any concern or any question about what stage of business you're in, how much money that you have, what sort of cash flow that you have, etc. In my particular case, I only do that when it's a small dollar amount. When it's one of my inspirational books, they're only $17. So you can go on to Amazon and they may have a deal on them. You might be able to get them, for less amount of money there. So, I can talk all day long about the value that others have seen and the heart and soul that I put into my inspirational books and my business books. They're only like 17 to 20 bucks. You get to make the decision as to whether or not you see the value for yourself and whether or not you want to make that investment. And I go all the way up usually to around, $400 or $500 before I start asking questions about whether or not this is right for you. And by the way, all of the services that we have, especially the low dollar services, the $500 programs or something, if for whatever reason you decide that that's not right for you after you purchased it, then just let me know. I'll give you your money back. There's no questions. I want you to have the value out of that. If you ever think that I'm part of your problem instead of being part of your solution, well then please do me the favor of saying that this doesn't work for you, because I want to be part of your solution. I don't want you to think for a second that I bought this thing and it didn't really work for me, and Paul didn't care about me, because it's just not true. I do care about you. But generally speaking, that's about where I draw the line. I wouldn't recommend, and the reason I draw the line is there because I engage with so many small business owners who are just getting started, and they have very limited funding, and they may only be able to afford and be able to use something that's, only a couple of $100, maybe just, an hour's worth of coaching is really what they need to help them address the obstacle of the day and move forward. They don't need to be buying a $5,000 coaching package or a $10,000 strategic planning package or a $7,500 business planning package. It's just not right for them in their business right now, given where they are, where they're going, the resources they have at their disposal, and their vital signs, what their blood pressure is, what their heart rate is, what their weight is, etc. So there are times that I act as a sales professional and do not ask the questions about what business that you're in or anything about that. I simply talk about the value of the products and services that I have. My personal threshold for that is around $500. If I'm going to start to recommend to you that you purchase something that's more valuable from that, I want to have a little conversation first. And a little bit more about why I do that is because I've seen way too many small business owners, especially startup CEOs and entrepreneurs, invest $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 when it was not the right thing to do. They get part of the solution. It doesn't really move their business forward very much, and before you know it, they're all out of resources. And I think they could have made a much smarter investment than the investments that they chose to make. And I don't want to be a part of that problem. I'd rather be part of your solution. So thanks for asking that question, Stephanie. Any other questions or comments on that?
Yep. What do you do when you find out that someone's vital signs are out of whack?
When I find out that somebody's vital signs are out of whack, and if they really got a problem, what I try to do is recommend something that's very cost effective. So we have our 60 hours. This is office hours number 60. So right now we have 60 presentations that are available online and be free to people to take a look at. I might direct them to free training if I can. I might also direct them to free resources that are available through the SBA or through other organizations out there if the way that their vital signs are out of whack is in the sense that they have no money to spend on coaching or training. Sometimes people, by the way, have vital signs that are out of whack, like cash flow isn't nearly as strong as it should be, profitability isn't nearly as strong as it should be, but they're still in a position to pay for the valuable services that are going to help them get their vital signs back into shape. They need somebody to come in and coach them on turnaround issues like cutting back on some of your expenditures and redirecting some of your marketing efforts towards your most profitable products. Those kinds of conversations can mean that a person is in a position to pay much more support, and that's really appropriate for their business situation. So there's a lot of ways of being out of whack, I guess I want to say, that don't have to do with just having no money. So you can be out of whack and have your vital signs out of whack in terms of stress levels and in terms of chaos in your team and things that aren't going well for you that you really need to work on, but you can still afford the coaching, the consulting, the training, the advising support that you need in order to get out of there. So when I find that somebody's vital signs are out of whack, it really depends on how they're out of whack. If you have no money, we've got free products and services that can help you out of that jam, we hope. If you're out of whack in other ways, then we have a wide variety of coaching, consulting, training, and consulting programs that we can offer you that may help you out of that jam. I hope that was helpful. I guess it really depends on how you're out of whack and what your current situation is, and your ability to invest to get yourself back into whack. I'm not sure if that's the right thing, but I guess if you're ever out of whack, then you can get back into whack too. So next question, Stephanie.
Shoot, okay. Next question. How do you engage someone in a vital signs conversation? That's an interesting question too. When we go to the doctor, they take the vital signs, kind of in the hallway they don't shout out what our blood pressure is and our pulse rate is and that other sorts of thing, but it's not all that confidential to take your vital signs. In business, however, the business vital signs, take a lot more confidential conversation. And the way that you do that, I do it in a couple of different ways. Number one is if it's in the context of a conversation, I make sure that we have a relationship of trust, and it is a confidential conversation. Even if we're meeting in a public place, I'm not going to ask you, I'm not going to shout out at a diner, hey, what was your revenues last year? Because that's not appropriate. We have to have an ability to have a quiet conversation, even if we're in a public place. So I guess that's number one. Number two is, I know that you got to trust me, so I got to ask other questions first. That's why we work up to the vital sign questions by saying, hey, what business are you in, and how long have you been in business, and what products and service do you offer, what marketplaces do you serve, you got any product plans, what would you like to be, or what would you like to accomplish in the next 90 to 180 days. Before we start asking the questions about, what are your major issues that you're facing right now, any challenges, any team members that are not showing up in a way that you want them to show up right now. Then we get into the more confidential questions after we ask the fairly safe questions, and we work gradually into the conversations
about the vital signs of business and the really important ones. The other way I do it, by the way, is by sending people a questionnaire. I have a questionnaire called a Business Clarity Questionnaire that I oftentimes send out to people and invite them to fill that out on their own and then send it back to me. And then they can report at whatever level that they're comfortable of reporting about what their progress is, what their revenue levels are, what challenges and issues that they face, you know, what their own personal issues may be with regards to the business right now that need to be addressed, etc. So when I send the questionnaire out, it's always an invitation for somebody to report the vital signs of business at whatever level of comfort that they have, at whatever level of confidentiality or intimacy that they would care to report those questions back to me. So those are the ways. Working somebody into it through safe questions until we get to the more confidential questions, making sure that we're in a private place or are able to have a confidential conversation, and sending people a questionnaire, inviting them to report at whatever level of confidentiality they're comfortable reporting. Thank you for that question, Stephanie. Other questions that we have?
No, that's it.
Well, let me take just a second and invite those of you who are on the call live to raise your hand up if you like, and come online and ask any other questions about group coaching that you may, or coaching questions that you might have about anything that has to do with business. Or if you know me well enough, and I see by the people who are online that you do know me well enough, you know, any questions about the meaning of life or the nature of reality, or anything that's coming up for you right now in your business. And I'll talk for just a little bit longer, seeing if any of those questions come up. I think you can go to the control panel and just type in, you know, just raise your hand in some way at the control panel if you like. In the meantime, I want to say again how excited I am about 2015. You know, the stock market hit an all-time high a couple of weeks ago. The Dow's off a little bit today as we speak because of oil prices, so it fluctuates a little bit. But generally speaking, you know, the economy here in the United States has recovered a tremendous amount from the recession of 2008. You know, that was 7 years ago. But it really started at the end of 2007, really came in, you know, to be a really rough conversation in 2008. So 6.5 years ago, maybe 7 years ago, we had the worst recession that we had, I think, since the stock market crash of 1927 or 29. I can't remember what it was. It was really nasty, but I think that we're mostly recovered now. Although I do think the business has changed forever, as it always changes forever whenever we have a major recession like that. People are, you know, buying things over the internet. There are literally thousands of people on the internet wanting to be an authority figure or a celebrity figure or sell their products and services all around the world on the internet, which has changed things a lot. But I am very optimistic about 2015. I'm optimistic about expanding my business. I'm optimistic about helping you expand your business as well in 2015. If you like these office hours presentations, then please pass them along and share them with other people. Encourage people to come and sign up to attend the sessions live, which they can do at no expense, and to listen to the recordings, which are available on our YouTube channel. Stephanie, do we have any other questions or anything that has come up for you that you want to talk about before we move on for today? If you're talking, I cannot hear you, dear. There you are. Now you're chuckling.
Ah, shoot. You know, it was an awesome presentation, by the way. It was just awesome. I think that for so many people, it's just a different conversation, and I so encourage everybody to get into the conversation, get into this kind of conversation all the time, as often as you can. And if you don't have somebody on your team to do it, then, as Paul says, come and join our Office Hours team so that you can keep this conversation going, because it's just so critical.
Thank you for those comments, Stephanie. I really do appreciate that. And if there are no other comments or questions, we will call it a day. And as always, this is Paul Hoyt wishing you a most marvelous and prosperous day. Bye-bye.